Hello, my name is Jenny,
And my name is Jessie.
reporting to you live from the AP Psych station.
Today we have a special segment consisting of famous reporters from all over the U.S. sharing reports on the worst serial killers of all time.
And now on to Jessie Lee from the Big Apple, New York City.
On August 29, 1962, a serial killer was born. Richard Angelo, also known as the Angel of Death, was born in New York City, New York, to two loving parents who both worked in the education field. He had a typical childhood, and there were no signs of abuse or trauma. There was also no record of substance abuse. As soon as he was old enough, he volunteered at the fire department, and for college, he joined a nursing program and became a nurse at the Good Samaritan Hospital in Long Island, New York. It's clear that he just wanted to help the community, or so it seemed. His main drive was to be recognized as a great hero. As a nurse, he never really got that praise, so he poisoned his patients in order to save them again. He used a combination of drugs, including Pavlon, a paralyzing drug. There were no specific details about each of the crimes due to a hospital protection policy. However, it was discovered that he had 36 victims and 8 of them had died. The span of his killings were from April 1987 to October 1987. After arresting Angelo on October 11, 1987, his hospital locker was searched and the police found vials of the 2 drugs he used to inject patients. Soon after, the corpses of the victims were tested and the drugs used to poison were found in the body. Due to his personality and motives, it is clear that he was an organized killer. He did not exhibit any of the McDonald triads and kept no trophies of his kills. He was charged with multiple counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 61 years in prison. Currently, he's not dating anyone and was never married or had children. He's still alive today. And now on to Kai with the next serial killer.
Now for the next segment, we have Gary Ridgway. Some background information about him. Gary Ridgway was the Green River Killer, and he killed between 75 and 80 people. He would mainly kill prostitutes and runaways, and his preferred method of killing was strangulation. He had a suspected IQ of 82, and he also said that he would kill his son if he found out what he was doing. He wasn't happy with his son because he said it changed his sexual relationship with his wife at the time. He drove a truck, never went to college, and would leave the body intact and sometimes didn't try to hide the bodies. He would return to the crime scenes and sometimes have sex with the bodies. These qualities are significant because they're all characteristics of an unorganized killer. He had one characteristic of the McDonald triad, which was bedwetting into his teens. He was a lust killer and had sex with them before he killed them, and also sometimes after. He didn't want to admit where he hid the bodies because he considered them his trophies. He would kill the bodies in his home and put the bodies in rural areas, hence the name the Green River Killer. More background information. Gary was a killer during the mid-1980s, and there was only one survivor of his crimes. They took a cheap swab of Gary during the 80s when he was suspect for the murders. They used the cheek swab later when technology got better to identify him as a murderer. Originally, suspected him because they suspected him because he lived near the location of the murderers and had a truck similar to the one people saw at the scene of the crime. Gary was given 48 life sentences without parole and was fined $10,000 per victim. He's currently 68 years old and currently alive. His childhood. Gary was born on February 18, 1949 in the state of Washington. Gary was not a very good student, and he also, as previously stated, had a problem with bedwetting. His mother would humiliate him, which he said turned him on. Gary stabbed a person through the ribs when he was 16 years old, which was the only survivor of his attacks. His adult life. He married his high school girlfriend and was later in the military and deployed to Vietnam. He had an uncontrollable sexual drive and used a lot of prostitutes while he was there. His first wife had an affair, so they got divorced. His second wife, who he had a kid with, was later divorced, and he was then married a third time. After the military, he became a truck painter. Diagnosis. Gary Ridgway was a psychopath because he thought through his killings, and also he couldn't remember how many people he killed. His marriages often ended in divorce, and he was also a lust killer because his sexual desire drove him to kill. Treatments. If he had gotten treatment when he was 16 years old after first stabbing, he probably could have been corrected through behavioral therapy. After killing as many people as he did, I believe he was too far gone to be rehabilitated at that point. He felt no remorse for his killings, and at this point in his life, it's too late to teach him right from wrong. Thank you. That's all.
And now on to Jenny Park. reporting live from Kansas.
Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK Killer, the BTK Strangler, was born on March 9, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, U.S., to Dorothy Mae Rader, who worked as a cook, and William Elvin Rader, who was a member of the U.S. Marine Corps. Dennis attended Riverview Elementary School, where he was an average to mediocre student with withdrawn tendencies. As a child, Dennis Rader appeared outwardly normal and unremarkable. He joined the Boy Scouts as a youth and participated in church youth group activities. Those who knew him personally described him as a quiet and polite young man who preferred to keep to himself. As a young boy, he was generally reserved and quiet. Even though he started developing some disturbing habits during his childhood, he managed to keep them hidden from the world. As an adolescent, he fantasized tying up and raping girls. Around this time, he also started killing animals like dogs and cats by torturing and hanging them. However, he was good at hiding his dark side and came across to the outside world as a polite and shy young man. There is no record of Dennis's parents ever abusing him. However, in his early 30s, he had married his wife Paula in 1971 and was the father of 2 children. Dennis Rader in total committed 10 first-degree murders, all in Wichita, Kansas, some of which include on January 15, 1974, Rader killed 4 members of the Terror family in their home, which were Joseph and Julia Terrio and 2 of their children, Josephine and Joseph Jr., all died by strangulation. Also, on another account, April 4th, 1974, Rader killed Catherine Bright by stabbing and strangling and attempting to kill her brother Kevin as well, who fortunately survived. On March 5th, 1977, Rader tied up and strangled Shirley Vian after locking her children in the bathroom. Whether or not Dennis Rader has used alcohol or drugs is still unknown. However, there have been signs that indicate that he has requested mental examinations in the past, but there is no record of any psychological treatment or any diagnosis. Dennis Rader was a disorganized serial killer because of how all of his attacks were unplanned and he always left behind tons of evidence at the crime scene. His other qualities of low intelligence, sexually inept personality, and isolation also help characterize him as a disorganized serial killer. Dennis Rader became known as a BTK serial killer for binding, killing, and torturing his victims. But first he discovered as a child that he enjoyed such activities by torturing animals. His investigation went on for almost 30 years. The key to uncovering BTK was through his need to communicate. He contacted the local media and police repeatedly, sending letters, phoning, and dropping packages which all served as evidence. The purpose of these communications for Rader is both to terrorize the community in which he lives and to make sure that his greatest accomplishments are credited to him. Dennis actually requested the name BTK Strangler himself, which stands for Bind, Torture, and Kill. Rader was arrested on February 25, 2005, and later charged with 10 accounts of first-degree murder. He had no trophies. Bright, 49, is thought to be the only survivor of an attack by the BTK Strangler. Rader pled guilty to all of the charges on June 27, 2005. As part of his plea, he gave the horrifying details of his crimes in court. He escaped the death penalty because he committed his crimes before the state's 1994 reinstatement of the death penalty. Rader is currently serving 10 life sentences in a Kansas prison. Finally, we have Jungwoo, live from the South.
Bobby Joe Long was born Robert Joseph Long on October 14, 1953 in Canova, West Virginia. He was raised solely by his single mother, Luella, who worked in a bar and often brought different men home with her after work. He failed the first grade and had various accidents in which he suffered brain injuries. In 1974, Long gets married to a woman named Cynthia and fathers 2 children with her. Although short-tempered, he was reported to be relatively normal until he got into a motorcycle accident which hospitalized Bobby for several weeks. According to Cynthia, the accident was what truly triggered Long's violent outlashes and a more aggressive and sadistic sex drive. Although he was always short-tempered, he never was physically violent against her until the unfortunate accident. After repeated violence against her, Cynthia finally files for divorce, and the divorce goes through in 1980. After the divorce, Bobby moves in with a female friend named Sharon Richards, who would later accuse him of rape and battery. In 1983, he is charged with his first crime, and that was sending inappropriate, sex-infused letters and photographs to a 12-year-old, and was given a short jail sentence and probation. During this time, he begins to start raping people, looking for on-sale signs on houses occupied by single females. Starting 1984, he goes through and rapes over 100 women and kills 10 of them. One of the victims survives, 17-year-old Lisa McVeigh. He initially kidnaps her and treats her like a sex slave for 24 hours, but ends up releasing her, and she goes straight to the police, and Long eventually gets arrested. He was a disorganized serial killer as he acted on impulse, finding random vulnerable women in the streets, and he didn't try hard to cover up evidence. He didn't show any signs of McDonald triad when he was young, but he did share a bed with his mother up to age 12. He was a lustful type of serial killer, as all of his murders were motivated by a sexual drive. Currently, he is sentenced to 2 life sentences, but his execution has been delayed for several years after several appeals by Bobby, and he is still alive. He currently remains on death row in Florida's Union Correctional Institution.